Hello my fellow gamers, in this video we'll be taking a look at some very important Mythic Plus add-ons. This video is mostly aimed for beginners or returning players to Mythic Plus, as most of these are basic and more experienced players will usually have them. With that being said, let's get right into it. BigWigs, or its Mythic Plus dependency called LittleWigs, is gonna basically be your co-pilot in a dungeon. The goal of the add-on is to simply warn or remind you of upcoming trash or boss mechanics. It is mandatory to have it as it tracks a lot of spells which a human would find very hard to notice or keep in mind the cooldown of. I have a video coming up on BigWigs, so I'm not going into details as it is a lot, so keep an eye out for that. Before I go into the next add-on, I want to explain why I don't want to recommend DBM. While it is the more popular add-on, ironically, from an objective standpoint, it is lacking a lot of the warning, trackers, messages of LittleWigs. It also lacks a few quality of life stuff, and I always feel like the DBM timers are more awkward compared to LittleWigs, and sometimes completely not tracking some important ones. In raiding, sure, you can have a point, they're kind of at the same level, but in Mythic Plus, it is pretty clear that DBM is clearly behind. If you don't trust me, I would suggest you to play 2 or 3 dungeons with LittleWigs and see how many more warnings it has. Then try to return to DBM. The only, in quotation marks, downside of LittleWigs is that you will actually need to learn what mobs and bosses do, as it often doesn't tell you how to approach a mechanic, which might be a shock for some people. Moving on to details, with this add-on we can track basically everything that we press or in some cases happens to us. Damage done in a specific trash pack, healing done, damage taken, deaths and trips, you name it, it probably has it. The reason for this add-on is not necessarily flex on people, but to mostly check for mistakes, weird numbers, and to get a general vague idea about why a dungeon failed or what you can do better. I personally use it to check for weird deaths, why people take so much damage, and so on. Continuing to Mythic Dungeon Tools, or in short MDT, this add-on allows you to pre-plan how you want to approach a specific dungeon. At this point, Blizzard should just implement this into the game somehow, as it is absolutely mandatory if you're at least semi-serious about pushing some dungeon score. With this add-on, you can share as a tank a route to let your team know what you want to pull, or to know how much percentage you can get with a specific trash pack. You can also check what abilities specific mobs have to get an idea what hurts and what doesn't. Again, I won't go into a lot of detail about this add-on simply because I have a separate video prepared for it. Another incredibly important add-on, OmniCD, allows you to track personal cooldowns of your party members. This includes defensives, offensives, raid cooldowns, and trips. This is mandatory because you can immediately take a peek to know who to heal. If your tank has a defensive cooldown for massive pull, or as a DPS know if you're the only one who has an interrupt up. If you're not so versed in other classes or specs, you can even check what spells do from those classes. It can be daunting at the start because its default setup is pretty bare bones, but as I said before, you can study a bit what you want to track and move on from there. Radar.io is basically our CV or application letter when it comes to applying to dungeons. You can see very easily with this add-on what dungeons a specific person did, their score, and what role they main usually. While Blizzard added a bare bones rail functionality by being able to see a player's score and the level of the dungeon they've completed, it's still not as detailed as Reddit.io, as it just simply enhances what Blizzard has already in store for us. Weakauras is an add-on that at this point matured so much that it probably needs its own book when it comes to using it. In short, Weakauras is an add-on that allows you to create simple or complex UI elements to what you already have. It will probably be easier for me to explain to you for what I use it, and that is reminders for more subtle spells that are happening on my screen, or timers as to when I need to move out of a mechanic, and etc. Most people use it for the things that I said earlier alongside UI customizations, as you can create some pretty interesting additions to whatever you already have. HP bars, mana bars, cooldown trackers, and so on. Last but not least, Platter is one of the most customizable nameplates in World of Warcraft. This one is a must for everyone regardless of role. This thing is absolutely bonkers. Very customizable in terms of looks. You can add text which will show you the HP of the target, track buffs, debuffs, what it casts, change the colors, and so on. It is incredibly flexible and probably can do what you feel the vanilla lacks. This add-on is even more important for people wanting to play tank, as it allows you to know what attacks you and what attacks your team, for healers to know exactly when they can dispel something from an enemy, or as a DPS to just simply know if you snapped aggro and stuff like that. At this point, Blizzard should just make it mandatory, especially for tank mains, as it is impossible to play this role without it or something similar. That's it for me, my fellow Mythic Plus gamers. I'll make more of these, but focused on specific add-ons, because if I had to go through all of them right now, it would be a very long video, so I'm just gonna take them one by one. Until then, take care. If you enjoyed the video, throw a like. If you want to see more, throw a subscribe. And if I missed something very important, throw a comment. Take care, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.